Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be talking about swapping camera views or changing the cameras from first person to third person to bird's eye to Gears of War style, different race car cameras, things like that. The main reason is because even though we're creating a first person story driven level for this assignment, not everybody likes first person, and everyone needs to be creative and make things happen, right? So again, just showing you different ways to adjust your camera settings so that you can make the game that you want to make. A side scroller, top down, whatever it may be. So up first, you see here that I've taken my cameras and I've put as many as I want. For this example I'm showing you, I put 3 and I placed them in the corresponding place that I want. And since the player spawns at the little joystick or the player start in your level, I oriented them around the player start. Now in this picture you'll see some arrows. One of them is pointing up to this little eyeball on your viewport. What this eyeball does, if you select the eyeball and then click on one of the cameras, or any object really, it takes that object and it snaps it to the camera that the player is, the actual viewfinder. So you can use your mouse or your WAS and D keys to move anywhere you want in the level, to aim it however you want, and when you have it in the exact spot that you want, you hit that eyeball again and it drops the object right there. So it's a very useful way for aiming your cameras. So just in case you don't know where to find your camera, you're going to go to your content browser, and under the Actor Classes tab, it should be the third thing you see. It says Camera Actor. So just select it and then go back to your level and right click and say Add Camera. Alright, so once you have all of your cameras set up, that's pretty much it for the level side. The rest is all Kismet. It's all coding and programming, right? So we have the cameras, we know what we want to do, and we know that they're going to be where the player is. Okay. So first off, we have to attach all the cameras to the player. So we're going to create a level loaded event, and we're going to wait about half a second. We can set a delay if we want. If you don't want to, that's fine, but I find that when I'm doing an on-level loaded event, it never seems to work unless I add a delay. So on that little black box for the event, you can right click on that and you can set an active delay, usually half a second. 0.5 works well, 1 second if you want. And then we're going to attach to actor. So if you right click and go new action, under actor you can find attach to actor. We're going to attach the target, which is the camera. Sorry, the target is the player, to the attachment, which is the camera. Okay, and you'd think that you could have all 3 cameras attached to the player with this one node, but in Kismet it doesn't quite work. So you're going to need to copy paste that attach to actor 3 times. So if you just select it and then do Control-C, Control-V for copy paste, it'll work pretty well. And again, we're just going to have player 0 instead of all players, just player 0, which is us, under each one for the target, and then the attachment for each one is going to be each of the 3 cameras. Okay. So after that, what we're going to do is we're going to have a button press event. Okay. So if you right click new event and go to key button pressed, you can get a button press event. So what's going to happen is every time we press the letter R, or whatever letter you want, but in this case I'm using R, every time you press the letter R, it's going to switch cameras. Okay. So if you click on the button pressed event and you go to your properties, under input names you just type in the letter R. That's all you have to do. Now also I set my max trigger count to 0 so that every single time I press that letter R, it's going to happen. I also set my trigger delay to half a second. That way it gives the camera time to record, it gives the player time to get adjusted and all that stuff before I can switch it again. So after that, we need a switch statement. Now, I don't know how much programming all of you have done, but a switch statement is pretty easy. It looks for a variable. It could be somebody's name, it could be a number, it could be anything. Whatever the variable is, a switch statement looks for that variable. And when that variable changes, if it's a name, Tom, Doug, Sally, Harry, right? Whenever that variable changes, depending on what it changes to, something will happen. So if the variable is a number, 1, 2, 3, or 4, then when that variable equals number 1, it does this. When it's number 2, it does that. When it's number 3, it does something else. Okay? That's what a switch statement does, and that's how we're going to use it. We're just going to use a regular switch statement. So if you right-click New Action, you can find a switch statement. What we're going to do is we're going to switch between camera views. Pretty easy, right? So when you go to the switch statement and you look in the properties, you can see that I've got it set to looping, so that when it gets to number 5, it goes back to number 1. Okay, I need it to loop to do it constantly. I have the link count set to 5 because even though we have 3 cameras set up, I'm going to show you something else just in addition to it. Okay, I'm going to do 2 other things. Now the increment count I set to 1. So if my link is 1, then it's going to go 2, 3, 4, 5, and then back to 1. If I set that increment to 2, it'll say 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, 1. Okay, it keeps looping, and it does it by 2 or 3 or 5 or however many I want. However big the switch statement is totally up to me. So, link number 1. What I'm going to do, since the game starts in first-person mode, I want to use that to switch to third-person mode. So I'm going to create a console event for the player again, and the command in the properties is behind view. Okay, it's a basic console command from Unreal that's been around since 1998. What it does is it sets the camera to third person. Okay. Then I'm going to select one of my cameras, whichever one it is up to you, but I selected my third person camera, which is a different third person than what the behind view does. And in the properties of that matinee that I created for the camera, I set it to looping so that it just constantly records. Okay. Now in this camera, you'll see that I have a movement track to record and watch things, but I also have a director's path. So the director is what's going to actually make the camera show you on screen. Without the director, it's not going to happen. Okay. So again, I've got the director, I've got it set to looping, and this is my number 2. It's a different third person than what the behind view does. For link 3, I have the same exact everything on the matinee, just with a different camera. So I selected a different camera, right-clicked again, created a matinee with the camera, set up the director group and whatnot. You should be able to copy-paste the matinee because it's identical, and then add in the different camera, but it's up to you. I normally create everything from scratch because when I copy-paste things, sometimes it tends to mess up. Again, I set it to looping, and this one is my bird's eye view. Then I have another one. Again, it's my third camera. This is going to be my Gears of War view. It's behind the player, a little bit lower. Again, it's set to looping. Okay. And then link number 5, what I'm going to do is, since we started in first person, I'm just going to switch it back to first person. So I copy-pasted my console command. It says behind view. But what I noticed is I had to do this twice. The first time I do it, it turns off the cameras, puts me in third person, and then the second time I do it, it then switches back to first person. It does it so fast you never see the first one, so you're just automatically inside of first person, which is where we started, which is where we want to be. Now, in this picture, you'll see that I have a lot of black wires going to the stop command of the matinees. What's happening is when you're writing programming, you have to have a lot of checks and balances. You have to make sure everything starts and stops when it needs to. Well, when I tried this, I did not have a stop command on anything. So my level started freaking out when I went to play it. My character started doing weird things. And that was a visual way of UDK to show me that I had an error in my code, in my visual Kismet code. So what I did is, I said every time a new camera angle starts, I'm going to stop all the other camera angles just to check. So you can see here on link number 2, when the first matinee plays, all the other ones stop. Okay, and I've done that for every single link. When one view starts, all the rest stop. And then that pretty much fixed my code so that there's no errors and it swaps out pretty well. So just showing you some examples here. This is how the game starts in first person. When I press the letter R, it changes to the behind view, third person, from UDK. Press it again, it goes to my third person view, a little bit higher and a little bit further away. Press R again, it goes to my bird's eye. Press it again, it goes to Gears of War. And then press it again, it goes back to first person. So again, this is a quick little intro on how to change your cameras. And you know, the more complex your level gets, the harder it gets to check your code. You know, when other AI enter, when you're getting into vehicles and all these other things, if you're in a small, tight building, your camera setup will change. All these things can break your code, and you have to try to fix it. That's all part of game development, but at a basic level, here's a quick way without coding to change up your camera view. All right, have fun and good luck.